Anglo-Japanese Foundation. My name is Jason James and I'm chairing this cast of thousands this evening. So I'll just give a very brief introduction. We're here to talk about contemporary Ainu art and particularly about Toru Kaizawa, the artist who I think you can tell is the one wearing the Ainu costume. And the Ainu people have had many centuries of oppression, really, by the more regular Japanese people. In fact, the title shogun originated as a military title for the person who was supposed to be in charge of suppressing the northern barbarians, or whatever they were referred to in those days. And so the Ainu were forced further and further north through Japan's history, but they have maintained their own culture and art. And it has started to gain more attention, perhaps more overseas than it has in Japan. And really the trigger for this event today is that the British Museum has started to display in its refurbishment of the Mitsubishi Japanese galleries, just from last week, started to display one of Kaizawa-san's works. So I'll just very briefly mention who the speakers are, and then I'll hand over, because we've got a lot of stuff to get through today. The first speaker is going to be Professor Hirofumi Kato, and he's Professor of Archaeology at the Center for Ainu and Indigenous Studies at Hokkaido University, so obviously very knowledgeable about Ainu culture. So then we have Kaizawa-san himself. He will speak in Japanese, but I believe he's subtitled all of his slides with English, so hopefully we won't need to translate apart from the Q&A at the end. Then we have Professor Nicole Rousmaniere. So she is the person at the British Museum who bought the piece by Kaizawa and selected it. And she also was the founding director of the Sainsbury Institute in Norwich, Sainsbury Institute for the Study of Japanese Arts and Cultures. And the current director of the Sainsbury Institute is Simon Cana, Professor Simon Cana, and he is also head of the Japanese department at the University of East Anglia. And mainly works also in archaeology, Japanese archaeology. So on that note, I will pass over to Professor Kato.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are very happy to see you, so many of you here today in London. So, my name is Hirofumi Kato. I'm a professor of the Center for the Ainu and Indigenous Studies, Hokkaido University, Japan. And I'm very delighted to be given the opportunity to speak to you today. So before starting my talk, I'm deeply grateful to the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation for holding such a lecture by Mr. Toru Kaizawa at this place in London with such a distinguished scholars. Sorry, Japanese from UK side. And my part is a brief introduction on the modern Ainu culture and modern Ainu art, and Mr. Kaizawa's artwork. The Ainu is indigenous people in Japan, and they are well known. They're making the excellent decorating the wooden craft and the clothes made by the bark with a sophisticated design. Just today, then the dress that Mr. Kaizawa is a typical traditional Ainu law. So since 19th centuries, the excellent folk craft have been highly valued by the travelers, missionaries, and researchers, and the collected Ainu folk crafts by them are exhibited in the museum around the world as ethnographic collection. The British Museum has a huge Ainu collection, including the collected at the Japan-British Exhibition, where took place at the White City in London from 14 May to 29 October 1910. In Japanese calendars, is Meiji 43 years. To this exhibition, 10 Ainu people participated, and 7 of them came from Mr. Kaizawa's village, Biratori. In this renewal at the Japanese Gallery at the British Museum, noticed the Ainu art as a modern artwork, and has taken the role of introducing its beauty. I would like to express my deep appreciation for this excellent perspective and decision. So the fact that Mr. Kaizawa's work was collected as a modern artwork and exhibited at the British Museum has a great meaning in the future of Ainu art. I would like to express this significance from this point of view of indigenous art. Ainu culture does not live only in the traditional works, and it also does not repeatedly duplicate the old tradition. As well as other living cultures, Ainu art transforms in the contemporary society and creates new beauties beyond the generation. In artwork of Mr. Kaizawa, we can see there embedded are also the strong message it's in own story. We need to recognize the message contained in this artwork in the contemporary context, and to locate its position of the artwork in contemporary social context with its beauty. So this slide is shown the representative works of Mr. Kaizawa. The artwork of the identity expresses the hidden inside identity of the current living Ainu people. Next artwork is a Toru Kaizawa in Ainu language, and dramatically express the narrative story of passing the generation through the sound. And the work of the rebirth of spirit express the scene of the Ainu culture of the new stage entrusted to the young bird. The Ainu people recognize the fish owl is a guardian for the Ainu village. It will be possible to understand that God will be also regenerate with the tradition. So, after too heavy appetizer, you cannot fully taste and enjoy the main dishes tonight. So I will be end and my introduction as a appetizer tonight. So right now, the traditional method, craftsmanship of the Ainu culture is evolving into the contemporary Ainu art. And on the other hand, unfortunately, there is no permanent gallery to properly evaluate and display the modern art based on the indigenous culture in Hokkaido and in Japan. So in such a circumstance, so I'd like to delight with all of you and that the contemporary Ainu art will be disseminated from the London and Europe towards the world. Thank you for your attention. I'd like to finish.
イランカラプテアイヌ語であなたの心に触れさせてくださいという意味でこんにちはという挨拶になります。私は北海道平取町二部谷で生まれ育ち家業のアイヌ工芸品を制作し続けてきました。貝沢徹と申します。二部谷古丹は古来からアイヌ民族が多く住む地域でもあります。 二部谷は昔から国内外のアイヌ研究者が多く訪れる地域でもあり、イギリスの方では1878年イザベラ・バード氏、宣教師のジョン・バチラー氏、1930年から42年スコットランドのニール・ゴールドン・マンロー医師がおります。特にマンロー先生は移住してその当時アイヌの病人を助けるため無料で医療活動を続けて、二部谷ではアイヌの恩人と言われ続ける。現代でも毎年6月にはマンロー先生を偲ぶ会が行われております。貝沢ウトレントクは1862年生まれで、二部谷地域ではアイヌ工芸の名工と言われており、私の曽祖父にで4代目になります。その当時明治期でもアイヌ細工は斬新な工芸品だったと私は思います。なぜならアイヌ文化は劣った文化と考えられた中で、アイヌ工芸品だけは唯一大衆に受け入れられたものだと思います。木彫りに取り組むきっかけは、私が生まれた1958年は二部谷地域の生活の糧は農林業だけでしたが、1860年代頃からアイヌコタンに訪れる人たちが観光客として多くなり、土産店ができ始めて、男性は木彫り、女性は織物を作り、夫婦とも稼ぎが増え、生活が向上しました。私も高校卒業後、1974年に家業の木彫りを始めました。今年で42年目になります。その当時は多くの観光客でにぎわっておりましたが、土産店も30店舗以上ありました。現在では4店舗で男性は5人ほどの木彫り師がいるだけになってしまいました。制作において注意している点は、30歳を過ぎてからアイヌ工芸品を彫るようになりました。その当時は先人の工芸品を忠実に模写しておりましたが、ある疑問を感じました。なぜ博物館や展覧会では先人の制作したものだけなのか。今を生きるアイヌ工芸品を制作する必要があると感じました。内面性、メッセージ性を込めるように心がけております。また作品の中には伝統技法を取り入れております。私の作品を見たときに何を伝えたいかを共感していただければ幸いです。今回の作品の思いと大英博物館で展示されることの感想です。作品はアイヌ語でケウトゥムカンナスイ、精神再びと言います。使用した木材は神木材、イレの木でね、土の中に何百年も埋もれていた木材になります。巣は先人が文化を否定されながらも継承し続けてきた表現です。卵の孵化は現代のアイヌの若者が言語も含めて継承しようと生まれてくる姿を表現しております。現代社会の環境の中で影響を受けても自己の精神を持とうとする若者がそういう方に激励している作品です。この作品が大英博物館に展示されることが関係者の皆様に一人の作家としてこの場を借りて感謝を申し上げます。ありがとうございました。日本国内ではアイヌ作品は土産物の一部と考えられているのが多いの中で、大英博物館での展示は世界中の人々に今を生きる新しいアイヌ精神表現を認知してもらえる多大なきっかけとなり、アイヌアートの飛躍となると思います。オーストラリアのアボリジニアート作品のようにアイヌアートも可能性を追求する必要性があると感じております。その他の代表作です。 アイデンティティ、この作品はアウタリ、仲間に問いかけた作品です。ファスナーを上げると日本人として生きていく。ファスナーの中にアイヌ文様が見える姿は外見では日本人でも中身はアイヌ精神がある。裏面のアイヌ文様はアイヌとして生きていくという姿です。あなたは3つの選択肢の中でどれを選びますかと問いかけております。右後句、アイヌ文化の継承100年を表現しております。入れ墨の手から現代までの手を表現しています。私の家族の手を持っております。現代アート、アイヌアートへの期待することです。アイヌにおけるアイヌアートは私の一世代前に始まっております。抽象作家の砂沢ピッキ、床のプリ、写実作家の藤戸武樹さんの3名が有名です。生活の糧としての木彫り品から自己表現を追求し変化したアイヌ作家といました。私たちの世代からは表に出さなかった神話や内面性を表現する必要があります。アイヌ文化の中にはアート作品としてできる題材が豊富にありますが、また楽しみであり期待しているところであります。アイヌ語の言い伝えで関東フォロワー約作のランケプシネップになる。天から役目なしに降ろされたものは一つもなしという言葉があります。今回の大英博物館展示の私の役目の一部と考えています。これからのアイヌアートは先住民族アートとしても楽しみなアート市場の一部として進んでいければいってほしいと考えております。最後に1910年108年前に日英博覧会が開催されました。そこに10名のアイヌ民族が海を渡り参加しております。私の集落からも7名、近郊から3名です。そして6ヶ月間の滞在は言い伝えとされております。108年後に大英博物館でアイヌアートが展示されて感激しております。大和基金の関係者の方々と今回のセミナーにご清聴していただきました皆様に感謝をして話を終えさせていただきます。やいらいけれ、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. I'm Nicole Rousmaniere from the British Museum, and we have just reopened the Mitsubishi Corporation Japanese Galleries. Can you hear me? I have a pretty loud voice, so normally people say you can hear me. Oh, the pointer, fantastic. And I don't know how many of you have been to the galleries already. They've opened last week, but we're really excited to have Kaizawa Sensei's work there. And what I wanted to talk to you a little bit today is, for me, what was the importance of this work, a little bit about how it came about, and what I feel its meaning is for the British Museum, but also for us, and that's for us moving forward. I know that you know a lot about Ainu history already, but as I've been working towards getting this piece acquired and towards displaying it, I've learned a lot. What was interesting to me was in 2008, on the 6th of June, the Ainu as indigenous peoples were recognized for the first time. Now this happens to be just before the G8 summit. Just wonder about certain connections. In fact, last year, for the first time, the Ainu were recognized as indigenous people of Japan. So before they were recognized as indigenous people, now, last year, they're of Japan. So there are ramifications for recognizing it. That means certain laws. What about repatriation? What costs? I mean, it's a larger part of a larger dialogue. But this dialogue is ongoing, and what was so surprising to me is how recent this dialogue is. And this is why, all the more, I feel it's very important for Kaizawa sensei to speak for his fellow artists and be able to speak for themselves, to be able to have their voice instead of a curated voice that we've seen all along up to this point. In fact, I could go a little bit more about the history, but since we have Kaizawa sensei here, I really want to go more into Kaizawa sensei, but I feel that it is something that we really need to look with more clear eyes at. This is our display, and I would really welcome you all to come and see it. What we've tried to do is focus on Kaizawa sensei's work, but the British Museum has a very, very large Ainu collection. It's got a spectacular collection. It's mostly from the 19th century, but a lot has come in 1910 from the Japanese, Nichie Hakurangai, from the Japanese-British Year of Understanding, 1910 in White City. And so, for example, this right here, the decoration that goes around the neck, that came from the 1910 exposition. But the rumpe, the beautiful textiles we have, came in from very many different ways. But what we wanted, this is what we had, but what we wanted was to have Kaizawa sensei's voice, or really a contemporary art voice, to really frame it and speak for it, to be the permanent voice that speaks there. Other objects can change. What stays is the contemporary voice. So what we've done is we've put a photograph of Kaizawa sensei, we've put his words, and we've put a description about what Matsumai, this area, meant for the Edo culture and then the contemporary culture. But what we're doing is looking at it from the contemporary back to the past. And I'll go into it in just a moment, but I wanted to explain in the Japanese galleries what we've been doing is taking contemporary artwork that focuses on tradition. So for example, we have Tokura Yasukichi III, probably one of the most important ceramic artists, along with Fukami Sueharu, very different expressions, but very important Japanese icons of art, and we display them in the Japanese galleries. We have recently what we feel is going to be the icon of the future is Hosono Hitomi, and her work, which has garnered a lot of attention actually now recently with her manga in three-dimensional ceramic and as a new installation in the Japanese galleries. But what I'm really very, very proud of is Kaizawa sensei's work, because I think this has profound meaning. So I want to explain a little bit about what we did and a little bit about the work itself. We're calling it, the translation, Spirit Reborn. And what's interesting is Kaizawa sensei's title is in Ainu language. It's not in Japanese, it's in Ainu language. We have a Japanese translation of it, but the title is in Ainu and then translated in English as Spirit Reborn. About 2 years ago, we decided to have the start of this conversation. I'm really very, very grateful to Simon Kaner and to Kato sensei for introducing me to Kaizawa sensei in Norwich at a Sainsbury Institute event. And when we met him, it was really, it just opened my eyes, and I realized this was the person that we needed. And so we approached him and asked him, would he be able to create us something? And he said, well, what do you want? And we said, something that addresses your identity. And so what he did was he went back and he made 3 sketches. And he sent us 3 sketches, and he said, which one do you want? And we wanted to say, all of them. but we couldn't quite do that. And then we had to say, well, which one do you want? And so there was a little bit of a dance, but we chose this from his sketch right here. So you can see when he made it. So what I did was I went to Biratori, to Mibutani, to visit him. And he showed me what he was starting to create. So this is kind of a model of the piece. And we talked about it, and he explained his feelings. And you can see it's actually quite different. I mean, you still have the Blakestone fish owl as a kind of a protecting spirit, but it feels quite different, and the wood would be quite different too. This is in the museum, there's fantastic museums there. I met his family, and they're here today. And I fell in love with his granddaughter. And, but you can see the family, this is in his studio. And this is Kaizawa sensei at work. what's interesting is I've worked a lot with contemporary top craftspeople in traditional contexts all over the Japanese archipelago, and true to form, Kaizawa Sensei has a fetishization of tools. And these tools are just amazing. It was like a wonderland to go in there to see his studio, to see him creating and how he works. Really, it was. And then looking at him and how carefully he works, and we were all staring at him, and it was almost as if he just blanked us out. It was transported. It was really lovely. So I wanted to show you a little bit about the piece itself, and then we'll end just a little bit about his statement. But if you look at this owl, Lakestone fish owl, you can see this piece of wood, this egg that's resting gently on a nest, a little bit at a jaunty angle. We asked him, what does it mean, after we wanted his words. And he told us in Japanese, but I'll translate into English. He said, the work is a reflection of the wishes that the next generation, utari, comrades, fellow Ainu, will leap forward. And this includes myself. So it's not just a wish for everybody else, it's a wish for himself, that we just move forward, and be able to express themselves. And he told us this before we received the work. What was interesting to me when we received the work, and I hope you'll be able to see this, is the tentative nature of the expression of the owl. Do you see how it's looking at us? It's slightly happy, but it's a little wary. It's actually a very, very delicate moment. And I think that Kaizawa Sensei did that on purpose. It has a sense of self. It certainly is fully formed. It's beautiful. But does it really want to come out? It does, but that's still that little bit of tension. Do you see how the break is right here? It's coming out, it's waiting. It's got a very comfortable nest. And if you look very carefully at the nest, it's filled with all protecting, it's got fish, feathers, motifs. It's a very safe, the Ainu culture is really protected it. And it's perfectly formed egg. You can see that the tree rings on it, these levels, but it's still that delicate balance. Can it come out? Will it be? What will happen? A little bit about the future. So this is what he said. This is how we interpreted it in the British Museum. I think what's really important is the wood he chose. He actually showed me the block of wood a year ago. I went and visited him on Obon. And what's interesting is when I went to visit him, he showed me all of Biratori, and it was really wonderful. We actually went to Monroe's grave. And he said, we don't normally do this in Ainu cultures, go to graves. But I went to his grave and he gave incense. It really moved me a lot, and he made an offering to Monroe. And you could really see that what he was talking about, Isabella Bird, they were all there, right in Biratori. But what is really important for me, and I really wanted to express this, and I'll finish in just a moment, is that the wood itself, elm wood, had been in a bog for centuries, maybe even thousands of years. He purposely fished it out. This is very much about his identity. It's about this submerged, very solid, very formed, but submerged, that's just there. He's taken it out, he slowly dried it, and he slowly carved it. I knew that this was going to happen, in this expression, but when you receive the wood and when you hold the wood, and we had to treat it, from insects and do all of these, that you normally have to do, you start to really appreciate how carefully he crafted every single little piece, how carefully he carved it, what an amazing piece of wood it is itself. So I'll just do a profile shot. And I want to show you one more shot of it, but if we see, do you see, it's just a little bit tentative, this very, very heavy wing, perfectly formed. It's very safe and solid, but it's not quite coming out yet. It's going to, but it's not quite coming out yet. Do you see here, this is from the back? And do you see how this side is very different? It's still very much nestled in. So it's really an object in the round. I'm just a little bit sad we can't show it completely in the round, but I wanted to show you, if you look really carefully, that's where he signed it. If you can see, it's right here. And what says to me is he's an ultimate craftsman. I'll just finish just one little second, but there's a little bit of a, in the wood, there's a little bit of a opening right here, and he did this incredible technique with a different type of wood, a butterfly wedge to do that, and then he signed his name in romanization, Toru. So it's about bridging all of these different cultures. It's really impressive. We've come a long way from the 1910 exhibitions. These works are beautiful. That was in the 1910 exhibitions. But we've come a long way, and I want to just show you a little bit where we're going. Next summer at the British Museum, and you'll hear more of it later, but there's going to be a manga exhibition. And I wanted to explain, and we're very excited in the Sainsbury exhibition space. A Japanese exhibition has never been held in that space before, and it's going to be looking at all of manga. But one of the things I'm really excited about was when I went up to see Kaizawa sensei last year, who would have known, but he introduced me to this artist. He introduced me to Noda Satoru. And I'd heard of him, but it didn't really occur to me. And he had his drawings all over, and it turns out that Noda Satoru sensei came to Kaizawa sensei and up in Biratani and studied. And a lot of the work that he does is actually reflective of the work that Kaizawa sensei and other people do. And so I wanted to introduce you to Ashiripa, and you will be seeing more of Ashiripa later. So I hope you'll all go to Nibutani. This is a little owl, a little roadside, a little bit like our Blakestone owl. But I hope that though you will go obviously up to Hokkaido to see Kaizawa sensei and his environment, but before that come to the British Museum, to the Mitsubishi Corporation Japanese Galleries, and see his incredible work. And I think that it's from here on in. Thank you.
Kaizawa sensei, Kato sensei, Nicole sensei, minasan, Iran karate. So my name is Simon Cana. I'm at the Sainsbury Institute for the Study of Japanese Arts and Cultures, as you heard earlier, and also at the University of East Anglia. And what a treat to hear Kaizawa sensei speaking so very eloquently about the amazing artwork that he's produced, and how wonderful to have it in the newly reopened Mitsubishi Corporation Japanese Galleries at the British Museum. I think 2 years ago, when we welcomed Kaizawa sensei to Norwich to a special Friends event for the Sainsbury Institute Friends, and he came and talked about the wood carving that he was doing, and it was I think it was one of the first events we've had about Ainu, and it's certainly, we want to make sure it's not the last. So we're very much looking forward to welcoming you back in the future. I've kind of drawn the short straw here because this evening's event is very much about contemporary art and Ainu as the contemporary force that they are in modern Japan. But I guess being an archaeologist, I inevitably got asked to talk about a historical perspective on contemporary Ainu art. Now, if we had about 3 hours, I think I might be able to do that some justice. All I can do is just give you a few impressions from an archaeologist's perspective, and I have to say as a prehistoric archaeologist perspective, because I mainly work on Jomon materials in Japan rather than anything later, so I'm way out of my comfort zone here. So I sort of resorted to a great comfort blanket, which is this volume, which is Ainu, Spirit of a Northern People. Now, this was an amazing exhibition at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. back in 1999. And this has been a wonderful opportunity for me to revisit what they achieved in this. And there's great chapters about contemporary art, as well as all the historical stuff, all the anthropological stuff that we might expect to see. I'm just going to circulate this round, so when you get bored of me talking about chronologies and things like that, just have a flip through that and enjoy some of the pictures that are there. I've just started out on a slide here. In the Edo period, there were artists in Hokkaido, largely associated with the Matsumai and the people who were running Hokkaido on behalf of the Tokugawa shogunate, and they had artists up there, part of that group. And there are two portraits for you: an Ainu woman on the other side, who's holding a weaving shuttle, and she's wearing one of these lovely necklaces, these super beaded necklaces with a metal medallion in the middle, as is on display at the British Museum right now. So you can go and see what that one really looked like. You also notice she's got wonderful tattoos around her lips. I thought it was nice because it's a representation of an Ainu woman. And we don't necessarily hear so much about sort of all the gender issues in all of this, but I'll come back to that as well. And then we have a wonderful Ainu chieftain. And there was a whole series of images of Ezo. Ezo was the Edo period name for the island of Hokkaido. And this is a series about Ezo period chieftains. And if you flip through the catalogue that's going around, you'll see many more like that. What I was particularly struck with by this is we're very used, as anthropologists, I'm sorry to say, there's a long discourse about how the Ainu are a dwindling, disappearing Aboriginal people. These images demonstrate the tremendous self-confidence and connectedness that Ainu chieftains had in the past, as I believe they still do today, wearing wonderful silk robes, probably from China, and we know that the Ainu, they're not, in that book it says, oh, Ainu were very much impacted on by trade from Japan. I think it's the other way around. I think the Ainu were tremendous drivers of trade all across the northern oceans in the northern part of Japan, up towards Kamchatka, across into what is now the Russian Far East. And there is a lot of, Kato Sensei is responsible for a lot of really interesting work going on in this field, and I know there's not an opportunity to hear about that from him today. And then there's a great big Jomon period house in the middle, and I'm going to justify that in just a second. But being an archaeologist, can't resist just take you through a little tiny bit of chronology. Before I do that, the Sainsbury Institute, well, our founding values, Nicole was instrumental in putting this all together, was about the research and dissemination of information into all aspects of Japanese arts and cultures. And that plurality, that diversity of approaches of arts and cultures in Japan sometimes seems a little counterintuitive against narratives of the homogeneity of Japan. And I think, obviously, the Ainu culture is very important in that. But the Ainu, if you like, from an archaeological perspective, are just the latest guardians of the landscapes, not only of Hokkaido, but of Sakhalin and of the other islands in the north of Japan where they were. And just very, very quickly, to take you right from the bottom, the occupation of Hokkaido starts round about 35,000 years ago. And it comes all the way through to today. Hokkaido's only been Japanese since the 1860s. So there's a great long period when there's all sorts of cultures there. And the names I'm just going to touch on briefly in this just a few minutes are Jomon, Epijomon, Satsumon, and Ohots cultures. And then we've got this thing called the prehistoric Ainu. And then there's the historical Ainu, which is when written reports actually start to appear. Okay. For me, art in Hokkaido begins about 20,000 years ago, when we've got, this is obsidian, wonderful, wonderful material to work in, and we have, these are all obsidian sources, volcanic, it's a black volcanic glass, and it's exploited throughout prehistory in Hokkaido. If you ever have the chance to go to a place called Shirataki, which is where it says Shirataki obsidian source, it's a bit out of the way, it's a long train journey from Sapporo. They've excavated, I think the figures are completely mind-boggling. Over about 20 years, they excavated a huge obsidian production site. There were, I think it was over 200 million pieces of obsidian have been excavated. And these are, sorry, 600 million. Any advance on 600 million? 600 million pieces. Oh, goodness. The archaeologists in Shirataki, I would hazard a guess that there's not a lot to do with Shirataki art style, but they've been refitting all of these amazing obsidian blocks Some of them are huge. If you ever have the chance to go to Sentaki, go see that museum. For me, that is contemporary art of a very, very unusual nature. That's the old stuff, the oldest stuff. This is the Hokkaido Jomon culture. I think many of you are familiar with Jomon, and we find it elsewhere in Japan. These are some of the best bits from Hokkaido. This is one of my favorites. It could be a duck, it could be a sea mammal of some sort. We had it in our Dogu exhibition at the British Museum years ago. Also this mask, it's a death mask from a site called Mamachi. And then this piece, the only national treasure from the whole island of Hokkaido is this hollow figurine, probably about 3,500 years old, from near Hakodate. And there are issues around why there are no Ainu national treasures from Japan yet. And I think that may be something that will be interesting to explore in the discussion. When you go to Hokkaido, and you will, if you haven't already been there, you must go. And I'm going to give you more reasons to go in just a second. Wonderful new museums. This is the Jomon Exchange Center. And it's in Hakodate, and it is home now to this amazing hollow figurines, this, the Chuku Dogu, as it is called, which is really quite extraordinary. From Hokkaido, also, we have the oldest known dated lacquer from anywhere in the world. This is a site called Kakinoshimabi. It's being worked on at the moment by archaeologists in Hakodate. This is a grave. Bones have long since disappeared, have been lying there for 9,000 years. But the body, you can see the body down the bottom there, was wrapped up in a blanket, a woven blanket, which had been painted with lacquer that had been stained red. Incredible. This is 3,000 years before we've got any lacquer in China. And obviously this is a tradition that continues all the way through. And we know that lacquer is very important import later on from Japan into Hokkaido. The Ainu, very important lacquer pieces in a number of Ainu rituals. I'm going to have to hurry up. There are pieces which really just speak to, we heard about identity. These are little clay plaques which the hand and feet of infants have been pressed into and then probably used as pendants. And so this speaks to me about that sort of tremendous personality that's shown by Hokkaido art, if we like. Nicole mentioned the G8 summits. Stole my thunder. Here we go. Here's the Chuku Dogu at these G8 summits, or whatever they are these days. I think they're G7 summits here now. World leaders line up and they are shown pieces of important cultural property from the locality. Here's a Jomon piece. Why wasn't it an Ainu piece? Be my question. Here's your reason to go visit Hokkaido from a Jomon perspective. And I'm hoping that there may be some ways in which the Jomon and the Ainu connections can be explored further as a result of this. There is a bid at the moment to have 17 Jomon sites from northern Tohoku and southern Hokkaido inscribed as UNESCO World Heritage. And hopefully, if all things work out, 2020 is when that will happen. These are the Hokkaido sites. You need a good 3 days to go visit all of these. And of course, you then need at least another 3 days to go and visit some of the key Ainu locations as well. Here's one of them. Well, this is my favourite, actually. This is no longer in the list. Rather unfairly, it's been removed from the list. From a British perspective, it's very interesting. It's a stone circle called the Washinoki, little tiny town called Morimatsu, about an hour outside Hakodate. This is the new motorway that is linking, strangely, Morimatsu, which has a population of about 3,000 people, with Sapporo. And they decided to put it straight through the stone circle. Actually, that's how the stone circle was discovered. And so they thought that they would then, to save the stone circle, they put a tunnel underneath it. And those of you familiar with what's happening at Stonehenge, you will know all about this kind of argument. But for that very reason, it's been taken out of the list of sites. I think it should be put back in, because it's such an interesting way of trying to preserve these sites. We get towards the end of the Jomon period. I'm only going to put a couple of shots of pottery for you. This is the pottery from Hokkaido, while in Western Japan, people are starting to grow rice, what we call the Yayoi period. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. This is what we call Zokujomon, Epi-Jomon pottery from Hokkaido. As I said, we shouldn't be thinking of the Ainu as being impacted on just from the outside. We should see the Ainu as their own thing, in control of a big area of what is now northern Japan, the Sea of Okhotsk, the Sakhalin, the Kurils, across the Amur River and up towards Kamchatka. And it was a trading network, a phenomenal trading network. Go visit the Ainu Museum in Asahikawa, and there are wonderful maps showing all of this, well worth seeing. We've got these other cultures, the Satsumon culture. Here's some Satsumon pots, which I can talk about later on at length for anybody who's interested. Some Okhotsk culture pots. The Okhotsk people in particular are intrigued. They live in these huge, what are these? Hexagonal houses, very distinctive house shape. This is a house pit being excavated here. And they hunted sea mammals, it seems, all around the Sea of Okhotsk. But they also produced some rather lovely artworks in their own right. This is a whale bone figurine and a little ceramic bear, suggesting that bears are important in Hokkaido before even the prehistoric Ainu are there. Okay, I'm running out of time, so you'll have to resort to the World Wide Web, which has got lots of fantastic English language material about Ainu history, culture. This is the Ainu Association of Hokkaido, all in English as well as in Japanese. This is a program called Akarenga, Red Bricks, which is all about historical sites around Hokkaido. And again, there's plenty of great information here on Hokkaido history. But this presumably is going to be the centerpiece of any visits to Hokkaido in the future. This is the Poroto Kotan, or it is going to become the National Museum of Hokkaido, which is going to be the National Museum for the Ainu people themselves. And it's a phenomenally important location because Nicole mentioned issues around repatriation, especially around the repatriation of human remains. This is kind of unprecedented, actually, in a lot of world history. But all the Japanese universities that have got collections of Ainu human materials are returning them to the National Museum in Shiraui, and there's going to be a national repository for Ainu remains there. And I think what a fantastic forward-looking initiative that is that has been driven forward by the Japanese government relating to the recognition of the Ainu as indigenous peoples, not only by UNESCO, but now, as Nicole said, indigenous peoples of Japan. And here's the map. So I believe this is what it's all going to look like. I haven't had the opportunity to go and visit there yet. I know that Kato Sensei is very much involved in this initiative, and I'm hoping perhaps we can hear a little bit more about that. And think about how places like this are going to be feeding into this continued revival development of contemporary Japanese art that we've just had a little tiny glimpse of this evening. Thank you very much.
Right, well, thank you very much for some very wide-ranging and fascinating presentations. We're going to throw it open to Q&A. One thing I've been asked to mention, so my microphone's now falling over, is I think everyone's going to be given, or has been given, one of these. Have you got those yet? No? Has it? Okay, there's the... I believe it's a kind of a musical instrument. Would you demonstrate?
Please open your bags.
Okay, we'll put Nicole in charge of translation.
Yeah. Kaizawa Sensei is going to demonstrate for us. So he's going to do it first and show us. So don't try this yet. So please listen first.
口筋と言います、日本語で。口がギターの穴の役目を表現させる。
So it's basically the sound of your mouth, like a harpsichord. Yes.
拍手してくれませんか。
Basically, it's like a juice harp, the sound and the echoing in your mouth.
はい、右利きの方は、 左手の小指に、
So people who are right-handed should use it on your left hand.
左手の方は右の方に。
So people who are left-handed should do this from,
Yes,
so hang it from your right hand.
で、あいにく僕は左利きなのでこういう形になります。皆さんの鏡だと思ってください。
So basically, you know, because he's left-handed and this is the way it's done, think of this as a mirror image. So do this exactly as a mirror image.
それでここを削ったところを前の方に。
So the area that's carved right here, and the bark on the side that comes towards you, the bark that's carved, put that on the exterior.
持ち方はこうです。
So you hold it like this around your small finger, and then you grasp it like this.
で、隣の人にぶつからないようにこう。
So watch your elbows so you don't knock out the person next to you.
そうですよ。
Yeah.
そして竹紐がこ
So do you see how you take this hanging string? You hold it like this between your two
う
fingers.
持ちますね。
So you hold that way
はい。で、
and make that sound.
ここをきちっと持つ。こう握って、ぐっと握って。
Hey Simon, you're doing it.
それがちょっと違う。
He said, "Don't follow Simon's example." That's a little bit wrong.
If you break it, Simon.
Not yet.
こ
So you have to hold it like this.
う肘からムックにま
Oh
で
yeah.
まっす
So
ぐ。
so this is almost like a gym session. You take your straight. Your elbow should be straight like this.
スナップ。
And so snap it. Can you feel it? Are you getting it? Hey, I hear it. I hear some people are doing it. Yeah, I hear this. Yeah. Okay, if you've got that snap.
いいですか？
Okay, now you've got that snap. That's the
ま
first
ず
stage.
ここで鳴らなければダメです。
So he said you really need to get that snap. Don't try the next stage unless you've got that snap. Okay?
なってますか？
Yeah, she's got it. She's got it. So very good. Very good. Yeah. Hear that? Okay, very
で、こ
good.
こで30分ぐらい練習して。
So for 30 minutes, we're going to sit here and do this.
これが普通なんだ。
So 30 minutes, we're going to do this. So now, are you ready for those that can snap? Are you ready?
開きます。
So open your mouth.
あ、そんなバーって言うんです。
So nothing big, not too big. Yep, just like that. So it just snuggles in there. Jason, your mouth's too big. Open it.
そう。
Yeah. So kind of cradle it in there.
これかじっちゃダメですよ。
So don't bite it though.
こう楽だった。
Just kind of rest it in there on your lips. It needs to be in your mouth, Simon.
Okay. Well, I think we've probably got the general idea. So this is something you can practice on the train home.
Come back next week, we'll test it.
Okay.